Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome again to the part 4 of our lecture 1, the lecture based on selecting suitable journals, paper submission to the UGC CARE and SCOPUS journal. So although we have covered 3 parts until now and we are at the end, uh, so reaching the last part of this lecture series, and this lecture has comprised many things. So I hope that you have understood all the things clearly. And still, if you have any problem, you can reach out to my email ID anytime. So now we will be talking about the part 4 of our lecture 1. So this lecture is based on the submission of a paper. So which is a very critical thing because a lot of people, a lot of new researcher, even experienced researcher, experienced author even gets problem like during the submission process because it's a very huge and it's a difficult process. Like different journals have different kinds of submission process. So although we cannot understand all the process together, I cannot show you the process over all the journal websites, but I have curatedly identify one journal which covers most of these steps, which is very common to all the journals, and I will show you step by step each of these approaches to you. I will define each step and I will help you to understand how the submission process being carried out. So let's start the first the part 4 of our lecture 1. The first thing we have to be careful is that how to submit paper to the selected journal. In the last lecture, we have covered how to select a journal. Okay, so I think now you understand what is a indexing process and how to choose a proper publication house and how to choose a proper journal. So when we finally choose a particular journal which actually align with our research scope, which the scope of the journal aligns with our paper's idea or its main theme, then we can finally select the journal. So once we select the journal, we select the process of the manuscript preparation. So manuscript preparation is also a tedious process, which I'm not going to explain in this lecture because maybe some other resource person will be explaining you to this manuscript preparation. But we'll skip this manuscript preparation and we'll go to the manuscript submission process. So when we go to the manuscript submissions process, and as I'm skipping the manuscript preparation in details, but still I'll be explaining you a bit of manuscript preparation process because it is quite important for the manuscript submission. So first, while we want to apply for any kind of submission, for if we want to submit our paper to a journal, we have two kinds of way. One, we can ask for a pre-submission query, or two, we can directly submit our paper. So now you can tell me that pre-submission query would be a good choice, right? But all journals wouldn't allow that. Okay. So actually, some journals are very popular. Some journals have very huge inflow of papers. So what they do, so they actually created a pre-submission portal. So what you have to do, you have to put your title, abstract, authors, affiliations, and submit for the editorial approval. And once you get approved and you can submit your full paper. So this is not the approval of your paper or acceptance of your paper. This is just approval that yes, your paper is suitable for our journal and it is within the scope. Now the actual process of peer review and revision is started. So when the peer review or the revision process starts, so it is same for the both kind of journal, the journal with the pre-submission query process and the journal with the direct submission process. It is same. So there is nothing to worry that I have not done the pre-submission query. That means my paper will be rejected. Not like that. Even there will be no extra point for the submissions. We have done the pre-submission query. So it is just formality. So whenever you're doing a pre-submission query to any particular journal, the editor first see the keywords, the title, the relevance of the abstract to the journal. So the abstract actually focuses on the novelty of your work. So if your work is novel, if your work is new in the area, if your work is really intriguing, then the editor gets interested, like the to understand the what are the real work, what is the process undergoing this work. So then they invite you to submit the full paper. So I will little bit cover the manuscript preparation for you. So the first, prepare the manuscript with the journal guidelines. This is very important for the submission process. So I told you that I will mostly consider the manuscript submission process, but still during the submission process, I'll talk about the little bit manuscript preparation. So how to prepare the manuscript according to the journal's guideline. So any kinds of good submission, any kind of well-built submission requires a careful adherence to the journal formatting, structure, and word limits. So, for example, if you are writing a review paper, then it should be around 10,000 or 20,000, 14,000 or 20,000 words, and it should have like 150 or even 160 references. But if you're writing a research paper, then it should be around like 4,000 or 5,000 words, and which should contain like within 50 references. So you have to be very careful while you are writing the paper for a particular journal, and you have to adhere to the journal's formatting structure and word limit. And this word limit sometimes includes the title, abstract, authors, everything, and also the caption of I mean to say the caption of the figure, caption of the tables, and sometimes the references too. But you have to be careful and read the author guidance carefully, that sometimes this word limit just includes your main body text without references, without the authors and appellations. So it's up to the journal's choice. So you have to ensure that your manuscript meets all the requirements specified by the journals. So what are the requirements? Like first the formatting, then the structure, then the word limit, then the reference style, then the citation style, then the appellation style, and all these things. So the second part before you go into the submission is the writing a compelling cover letter. So what is a cover letter? A cover letter is the actual mirror for your paper. So cover letter is just a single page letter. It should not be more than one. So it's a single page paper letter, preferably written on your university letterhead pad. If you are working in Delhi University, so it would be written in Delhi University letterhead, and it should address to the editor-in-chief of the journal. So once you address the letter to the editor-in-chief of the journal, so you clearly mention that you are trying to submit this paper to, or you are about to submit this paper to this journal for his or the entire team's approval for the manuscript acceptance. And also in the second stanza, you mention very briefly, very concisely, very precisely that what is the main contribution of this paper. So why this paper should be published in this journal. So why the editor or the reviewer should choose this paper over other papers. So what is the novelty behind it? So this should be very clear to the in the second stanza. The third stanza, you should focus more on the applicability of the paper if the paper gets accepted. Like if the paper get published, that how much citation, how much real life applicability, how much popularity you are expecting from this paper. So you have to focus and you have to write that very convincingly. So once you are addressing this letter to the editor-in-chief or any kind of handling editor of a special issue, then you have to write the significance of your study. So after you write all the cover letter and prepare the document, you have to gather all the necessary documents. So what are the other necessary documents? You see, you can tell me that I want to submit a paper. The paper is enough. And if you want, I can write a cover letter, but no, there are all other necessary documents. What are they? So sometimes the journals ask for the ethical clearance certificates. For example, if your study is involving any animal study, if your in a study involves any human study, if your if your study involves any kinds of sensitive information, then ethical clearance certificate from your university or from your institute is very important. For example, if your study involves any kind of human interaction, any kind of human image, any kind of human question answering, then the informed consent form is required, so that you can publish their view on a particular topic. For example, if you go for a if you go for a survey to collect some personal information from different people around your area, so you should take the consent form from them, that okay, if I publish this paper, can I use your idea, or can I use your notion on this topic while I publish my paper? So you should submit the consent form, sign the consent form. And then the conflict of interest statement. Conflict of interest statement is a very tricky thing. This means that while you're publishing your paper, whomsoever is in the paper, in the author list, should have no conflict of interest among themselves. And also, you have to be careful that no other person is left behind. That means, for example, five of you are working in a lab, and four of you are in the same project, and four of you are publishing the paper, and you are leaving one person behind. Then that's a conflict of interest. That means you are leaving one author, and he or she can suit a file against you. So that's the conflict of interest, that all authors know that this paper is going on. This paper has clear similarity index. This paper is well studied, and everyone agreed to the final version of the paper. That's the conflict of interest. So you have to ensure that all these kinds of documents, all these animal ethical committee clearance, all the human ethical committee clearance, all the psychological ethical committee clearance, all the kinds of informed consent from the human, from the society, from institution, and all the authors should sign the conflict of interest statement. So while you are signing the conflict of interest statement, you have to be very careful about the person, that if anyone is left behind. So while you are ensured that all those documents are prepared, you have to complete the online submission process. This online submission process is different from one journal to another, and that's tricky because it takes a lot of time. Because if you're not pro in that, if you're not aware of every process, if you're not aware of every steps that involve the journal submission, you may take like days of time. But once you are getting pro in that, once you are very much habituated with the journal submission, it will take no more than 10 minutes for you. So it's just about the habit, it's just about the style you are gathering, that's about the way of understanding the submission process. So you have to follow the journal submission process throughout every instructions given. Navigate the entire online submission system once first, all the tabs once first, and then come back to the first stage and start filling. Because sometimes what we do, we do not know that what is left, what is there in future in the coming tabs. So we fill the same information in the last in the previous tabs, but it still needs to be filled in the next tab. So that is a conflict of the similarity. So we cannot do that thing. So what we have to do, we have to first navigate to the entire online submission system, and then we have to start filling. So we have to ready with our manuscript. It should be well structured. It should be formatted by the journal style. It should be well cited, well referenced. All our documents, like the cover letter, figures, tables, supplementary materials, any kind of questionnaires, any kind of codes, any kind of appendix elements, and any kind of clearance certificate, consent forms, conflict of interest certificate, copyright forms, and all these things should be beforehand. You have to take care of this beforehand. So you have to, all these things should be ready. So once you are ready with all these things, so you are ready to go to the uh, submission process. So when you upload the manuscript, so from that stage, actually it starts filling the all other information. So in most of the journals these days, actually they prefer to upload your manuscript first and do fill the rest of the things later. Because when in this way, in this time, in these days actually, so when you submit when you are going to submit a manuscript, so when you upload a manuscript at first, automatically the system acquire the title, author, affiliation, keywords, and abstract from your paper. So you don't need to fill those things all together manually. So that's a good thing, so but this is not possible for all the journals. So some journals have this opportunity, some journals have this option to fill the form, but otherwise you have to fill the manuscript at the end, you have to attach the file at the end, and also the other files. So you have to double check that all files are correctly labeled, all files are renamed properly, all files are sorted in a proper order of their appearance. So you should not rename any file with any kind of special character, any kind of date, any kind of personal information like your name or your institution. So they should be like the manuscript. That's all. The figure one, that's .jpg, figure two .jpg, table one .xls, table two .xls, consent form .pdf, conflict of interest form .pdf. So your file should be sorted like this way so that it does not create any kind of confusion while the editorial desk, the office staffs of the journal gets your file. So it's very important to correctly label, correctly renamed, and maintaining the proper file format, because if you are submitting a journal, then you should always try to adhere to the submission file format limits. That means some journals require the LaTeX file, some journals require the docx file, some journals require only the PDF file. So you have to be careful about the submission file format. Sometimes in the images for the figures, sometimes they require the TIFF file, sometimes they require the PNG file, sometimes they allow the JPG file. So you have to be careful about what kind of files they want, what kind of resolution they want from that particular file. So what are the main steps that involve in submitting a paper to a journal? So it's a very complex process that I just told you. The main steps that involve in the process has many sub-steps. So I will explain you one by one. So the first step is the selecting the appropriate journal. I think we have already understood this thing from lecture part 2 and lecture part 3, that how to select a suitable journal. So considering the factors that such as journal scope, target audience, readers capacity, impact factor, publication time, SGS score, acceptance rate, and everything, choose a journal wisely that aligns with your research topic and with your keywords. Step 2 is a formatting or proofreading of the manuscript. So format the manuscript well with the journal's guidelines, and ensure the manuscript is well organized, free of any kind of grammatical errors, and adheres to the journal's guidelines. So if you're submitting an English paper, so your English language editing should be done very carefully, so that, because these days most of the papers get rejected due to the bad English or the bad grammar form. So you have to be careful about that. So pay attention to the structure, clarity, and accuracy of your writing. You don't need to be in a very high profile English, like in a Shakespeare English, but you have to write in a very clear, easy, comprehensive English, because sometimes sometimes the people, the reader of your paper will be from the English speaking country like UK, Scotland, or US, and sometimes from the English speaking country like China, Japan, Korea, and all these things. So they should understand it very clearly, whatever you are trying to convey. Step 3 is the preparing the supporting material that I just told you in my last slide, that preparing the figures, tables, supplementary materials, such as all other supporting files, are very careful while you are preparing this file. So be adhere to the guidelines, that how much tables they allow, how many figures they allow, how many words they allow in the manuscript, and be adhere to the submission guidelines. Step 4 is the writing an effective cover letter. This is also have explained you in my last slides, that how to write a cover letter. So crafting a very concise, precise, and compelling cover letter actually helps you to focus, to promote, to foster the significance of your research. Its relevance to the journal's scope, that how much unique this paper is, how much novel this work is, then what is the uniqueness, what is the selling point of this paper for that particular journal, because journal is a kind of publishing house which will get benefit from your paper if the paper has getting more popularity. So you should have identified the unique selling point of your work. And the final step is a step 5, which is a submitting through the online system. So follow the journal submission instruction, navigate their online submission platform, fill out all the required fields, upload manuscript, supporting documents, verify the submission details before submission the paper to the particular journal. That means when you are submitting the instruction, navigate entire thing first, follow very carefully each and every step, try to fill all the information you have with you in their submission portal, upload all the documents you have, upload all the format of the manuscript, all the figures, tables separately if you have, and verify everything before finalizing your submission process. So now I will show you that how we will submit a paper to a journal. But before that, a final tips for you to submit a journal. So what you have to do and what you don't have to do. So the do's are to carefully review the journal's guideline and adhere to them. That means do not skip the journal guidelines. Do proofread your manuscript thoroughly before submission so that there will be no error left. Do provide clear and concise responses to any specific question or prompts in the submission system. So try to fill all the information you have with you. Try to answer all the questions they have asked in the online submission process properly, because if you leave anyone or anything behind, so that may cause you problem, that may make delays in submission process. Do keep copies of all the submission materials like confirmation email, tracking number, etc. with you. That means when you submit a paper, you will get an email, you will get a tracking number with a manuscript ID, you will get a expected date of response. So please keep them with you, because this will be needed if you want to contact the journal for your for the manuscript tracking. Do follow up with the journal if you don't receive a confirmation or acknowledgement within a reasonable time frame. Because if you submit a journal, if you submit a paper with a journal, it is very likely that you get immediate response, automatic mail from that journal that you have submitted the paper. That's actually the acknowledgement mail. So that you have to take care of that, that you have to keep track of it. So if you do not get that mail instantly, you have to follow up with the journals and consult them that what's wrong with the submission process. What you don't need to do while submitting a paper: do not submit your manuscript to multiple journals simultaneously. So I repeat, do not submit paper simultaneously to more than one journals, and this is legal and ethically true. So that means you should not submit your paper more than one places at the same time, because once you get caught, it will be very dangerous for you for your academic career. So avoid submitting journals to simultaneous places. So once you submit a paper, wait for the decision. Once it gets rejected, then you submit to another places. Once it gets accepted, then fine, no problem, you get your paper done. Don't include irrelevant or unnecessary supplementary material that do not directly support your findings. Don't rush the submission process. Take the time to review and revise the manuscript before submission. So once you submit your manuscript, be clear that what review process will be going to through that, so that you carefully revise, you carefully, critically analyze your paper and then submit. Don't forget to disclose any conflict of interest or funding sources as required by the journal. So please clear properly that you do not have any conflict of interest, you have your funding or you do not have your funding. Just declare clearly everything before submission. and don't disregard the ethical consideration and guidelines specific to your research field. So what are the importance of corresponding author's responsibility? So who is corresponding author? Corresponding author is the author who is submitting the paper to the journal. So he or she may be a first author, may not be the first author, but he is the main author of the paper who is taking all the responsibility during the entire editorial process. So during entire editorial process, from the submission to the revision to the acceptance to the proofreading, everything will be done by the corresponding authors addressee. So you have to be very careful. So what are the importance responsibility? First, the effective communication. The corresponding author plays a crucial role in liaising with the journal's editorial team, responding to the queries, and providing any additional request information promptly. Address reviewer comments and properly to the journal. So corresponding authors should coordinate the revision process, ensuring the reviewer comments are carefully addressed. So that means when you receive the revision, you have to spread the words among your co-authors and collect all the revision, do the final revision on a single copy of the paper and submit the final version. And that is your responsibility as a corresponding author. So carefully consider this. And ethical compliances. The corresponding author should ensure that the study adheres to the ethical guidelines, obtain necessary approval, permission for the informed consent from the participation on institute. So the most important thing of the corresponding author is the responsibility. Sometimes it's the legal responsibility, sometimes it's the ethical responsibility. So these things should be taken care. If you are a junior in the field of submission of paper, you have to be very careful while you sign anything, because there will be only one signature sometimes. So that's actually of the corresponding author. So you are taking the complete and the full responsibility of the paper you are submitting. Conflict resolution. In cases where there are conflicting opinions among the co-authors, the corresponding author facilitates the discussion and mediate to reach the consensus. That means whenever there is some problem arises, you are the person whom the journal should talk to. Timely response and adherence to the deadline. So you have to be careful about the deadline. You have to be careful about the dates. You have to be careful about the submission process. So all is your responsibility. Maintaining accurate records. So when you are submitting the paper, you have to be careful about the spelling of the name of the co-authors, the proper affiliation, email ID, phone numbers, and everything. All is your responsibility. So be careful about while you are submitting and maintain the accurate records. Now let's see a live demo of it. So I'm not going to show you a live demo using a real process, because that will take time to in the recorded video. But I submitted a paper. I took a screenshot just for you, so that I can show you each and every step carefully before you can submit a paper. So let us explore the glimpse of the entire manuscript submission process. So here I have taken a sample journal. For example, a journal of a Springer. It's a very good journal called Multimedia Tools and Application. And this journal is a hybrid journal. That means it publishes as an open access as well as it publishes as a subscription based. That means you may not need to pay the open access fee. And this is the impact factor. And this is the number of days it generally responds back after you submit the first paper. So first, this is the homepage of a journal. So what you have to do? The first and the foremost thing that you have to do is to click over here. This is called submission guidelines. So when you click here, you will see all the details of the guidelines that the journal prefers to you to follow before your submission. So when we click here, we can see this kind of pages. And it's a very long list. So I could not take the screenshot of all the list because it will be a very long PPT. So that's why I took the most important part of it. So when you clear the submission guideline, you will see a long table of contents where you can understand that how the entire process works. So you can see the editorial procedure, what are the different steps involved. You can see the manuscript submission process. You can see the what is the title page, what kind of text formatting you need to do, what kind of references you have to do, what kind of table you have to do, every process. For example, if we click the text over here, you will see a, a page like this. So it will tell you that how you have to format your paper, how you have to make your paper looks exactly like a multimedia tools and application format. So basically, they prefer the Times New Roman with a 10-point text. You can use italics for emphasis, but do not use over emphasis of anything. It will say the heading, that how the heading will be there. It will be no more than 3 levels. That means 1.1, 1.2, and 1.1.1. So it should not be more than 3 levels. You can use the abbreviation, but that should be mentioned in the first side, that if you using the abbreviation like the ML for machine learning, then ML should be used in the first time, and after in the entire paper, you should use only ML, not machine learning. Okay. Then if you click on the title, then you can see this paper, that how your title should look. Your title should be concise and informative, and how is the author's information should be given. The name of the author should be given, the affiliation of the author's, institution name, department, city, state, country, every detail should be given. And a clear indication of an active email of a corresponding author. That means whomsoever is corresponding the paper, whomsoever is submitting the paper should give the correct email ID of that. And if applicable, if you have the ORCID ID, then you should give the ORCID ID of the author. And there is also the written that how you should write the abstract. It should be 150 to 250 words. That is, it is not less than 150 words, not more than 250 words. So it should be within that. The abstract should not contain any kind of undefined abbreviation and unspecified references. Okay, so it should be very clear. It should be very concise and precisely written. And then you can give keywords of maximum 6 keywords for your indexing process. So you can give 4 to 6 keywords which can be used for indexing purposes. The next important thing is the references list. This is the most important thing for a paper to be published. So you have to be careful that what kind of references, what kind of citation they want. So if you want your paper to be published well, so you have to be careful about making the citation. Are they allowing 1, 2, 3, 4 numbering? Are they allowing the APA format? Are they allowing the Vancouver format? Are they allowing the Harvard style? What kind of reference style they are preferring? So you have to be careful that. Then you have to check what kind of artworks they are preferring. Like they are asking for the EPS image, they are asking for the JPG image, if they are asking for the TIFF image, what kind of image format they are asking, what kind of resolution they are asking for the images. Next is a compliance with the ethical standards. So I have already described you that what is the ethical standards and how it stands for, and what is the competing interest. So competing interests are the conflict of interest. So you have to be careful that what are the disclosed potential conflict of interest. If there is none, just write that the authors declare no conflict of interest. If you have no human participants or animal, just declare that this study has no human participant or animals, and you have taken all the consent if you have any animal participant or human participant. So now let's see that how the entire submission process works. The first page you open over here is the main login page. So when you open the submit manuscript switch, or the key, you will get this open. So you first log in. If you do not have the login, you register yourself in the website. Once you register, you then log in and click the author login. Once you click the author login, you will see this page. So this page will show different thing. This is the for the first time submission. This is submission. This is the thing for which you are already submit and the paper is under review. And this is the paper which I've already accepted or rejected or under decision within this journal. So for the first time user, you have to click on the submit new submission. So when you click the submit new submission, you will see this page. So this page will have to select that what kind of paper does your article is like it's a review paper, it's a research paper, it's a what kind of article it is. Okay. So once you click here and click proceed, the first thing you will see is this. So I told you that in some journals, actually they prefer to ask the file much before than the other process. So when you attach the files over here, it will automatically take the file and it will snatch the details of the authors and affiliations and everything automatically, and it will fill it for you. So once you upload the paper, they will ask you for the classification. That means what kind of study is this? Is it a machine learning study? Is it an AI study? Is it an image processing study? What kind of study is this? So then is the questionnaire. That means, are you confirming that the data you are using in this study are available or not? Whether you will be able to give the information to the readers afterwards or not. So you have to answer some questionnaires. You have to answer some questions in the questionnaire. You just, these are mostly the MCQ questions. You just select and click. After that, you have you have the option of filling all the details. So once you upload your paper, generally these things are automatically filled. So the journal generally fill the title, abstract, keywords, authors, and funding information. But please do check by clicking next. See if there's any if there is any discrepancy, if there is any error involved in that. And once you are done with all these things, you click build PDF for approval. So once you click build PDF for approval, your paper is ready to go. So I would suggest that once you submit your paper, you have to be very careful about two things. One, the correct author list, and number two is the declaration of the correct funding sources. Because if your paper has no funding sources, then just click I have no funding sources. If you have any funding sources, then you have to be you have to state the article, I mean the publisher, that you had a funding resource for this work. And when you publish the paper, when you submit the paper, you have to write your full name, your degree, your affiliation, and you're a corresponding author or not, and everything. So be careful about the complete author details. Once you are clear with everything, click the PDF for approval, and you are done with the paper submission process. And now it depends on the quality of your paper, it depends on the review process, it depends on the entire thing. So I hope that you have understood the entire process of selecting a journal, choosing a journal from UGC CARE List or SCOPUS list, and submit entire the article submission process. So if you have any question, you can reach out to me at indranath.cs.du@gmail.com, or you can visit my lab page at sites.google.com, view Indra Chatterjee. So you can reach out to me anytime if you have any question. So I hope you have enjoyed. So this is the end of the lecture series one, which is mainly based on the selecting journals. So I'll be teaching you on the next session on the peer review process. So bye bye. See you till then, and thank you so much.